Hey everybody, Barbara McDermott here, founder of All Things Shift, and we're in day 5 of our 21-day Shift body transformation. So let's get started here. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel. That way, when we release new episodes, you'll get notified. We have, of course, we're in the 5th day of halting weight gain, that first week. Remember, next week we shift to actually fat burning from a sugar burn metabolism to that fat burning metabolism. Great place to be. And then, of course, in week 3, we take that fat burning metabolism and we accelerate. That is a good week to be in, okay? Halt weight gain, day 5. We're going to talk today about your secret weapon, just one of your secret weapons. And it all comes down to this little guy I call Special K, not the cereal, but potassium. It's an essential nutrient, and again, we're going to get into some of the science here. And the reason it's so essential is it's involved with keeping the fluid of our cells balanced, and in particular, the pH and the electrolyte balance. Well, 98% of the potassium in our bodies is actually found in our cells. Again, that proper balance, controlling the amount of sodium even that flows in and out of our cells. And anytime we might be a little deficient in potassium, we're going to get irritable, we're going to get fatigued, and you could even have muscle cramping. And you might be familiar with, if you've ever been an athlete or have athletes in your family, that replacing those electrolytes is really important. In fact, potassium is the 7th most abundant mineral, and it's an essential constituent for plant growth. So obviously, if it's really important for plants, it's important for us too. Found in soil. And again, that electrical function in our body, mineral, the cellular and electrical function. So we call it a body mineral because it's absolutely essential to those functionings. Did I say function enough times? I think I did. Interesting too that it works alongside with sodium to actually trigger nerve impulses, which actually triggers those muscle contractions. Now we understand why potassium, along with sodium, is so essential to exercise. Nerve impulses, heart functioning, blood pressure, fluid balance, and interesting that it actually helps to widen our blood vessels during exercise. And not only does that help with circulation, but it also helps to dissipate heat that is generated during exercise. And I love this little tidbit about potassium. It's one of the main blood minerals that are called electrolytes. We just said that a few seconds ago. We always hear about electrolytes, or have enough electrolytes, replace your electrolytes. Sodium and chloride are the other 2 most popular ones. But electrolytes are called electrolytes because they carry a tiny electrical charge. Yes, we are electricity. And it really puts a lot of positive ions. So in our body, we can over-collect positive energy. Is there such a thing as being too positive? Well, not really. However, electrically, yeah. And interesting enough, when we're standing on a beach or outside on the grass, you know how you naturally just start to feel better? It's not just because you're on vacation, it's because you are actually, our earth is negatively charged. And so when we accumulate too much positive charge in our body, we need something to counteract that. So standing on the earth and pulling in that negative charge balances that energy. But potassium, Special K, and weight loss, this is where it gets good. Okay, I like to say that the Keto Bandido, this guy right here, stands for keto. Keto references fat burning. Keto Bandido is my guy who represents ketosis, which is just this metabolic state of being a fat burner. But the interesting thing is potassium, which is represented by a K, you actually need potassium in your body to control the chaos of carbohydrate that we end up consuming, because potassium is necessary for converting glucose to glycogen. Glycogen is glucose's storage form, and we can actually take the glucose, carbohydrates in, digest the glucose in our circulatory system, bloodstream. We have that glucose. Remember, number one thing, insulin is released, and we can open up our cells and allow the glucose to go in for energy. But then we can also take any excess glucose and store it as glycogen before the process of fat creation. So to have enough potassium in our body is a great secret weapon for getting rid of some excess glucose, okay? And we're storing glycogen in our liver and in our muscle cells. Now, for every molecule of glucose, believe it or not, a molecule of potassium is needed to create that glycogen. So in my little picture here, that big letter 0 represents glucose, and that little p represents the potassium. I know I'm really simplifying this, but isn't that an incredible concept to grab a hold of? That for every molecule of glucose we consume, we also need to have an equal amount of potassium to match it in order for that glycogen to be formed. And if we don't have enough potassium, insufficient K, it can cause a craving for sugar. That's because our body is such an efficient machine. If we don't have enough sugar, glucose, stored in our muscles at the ready and stored in our liver at the ready as glycogen, we can actually have a craving for sugar because our body needs sugar, glucose, in the form of glycogen to be stored in our muscles. So we can even address cravings by making sure we consume enough potassium. That sounds easy enough, and actually it pretty much is. So how much K do we get? Most people would be thinking that, you know what, and I used to be this person, I feel like I'm a little fatigued, I'm having some muscle cramping, I probably need some potassium, right? And what do we always reach for? Usually a banana, right? Well, we need about this banana, this medium-sized banana, gives us about 400 milligrams of potassium. That sounds like a pretty good punch, right? However, we should aim for 4,000 milligrams a day. 4,000? But this banana falls very, very short, doesn't it? So we'd have to eat about 10 bananas to get that 4,000 milligrams. And those of you who've been paying attention to our shift videos, I hope you're thinking something about this banana, right? That banana has a whole lot of glucose, doesn't it? So if you look at that math, those medium bananas are about 28 carbohydrate in that one medium banana. We know the formula is to divide that by 4 because every 4 grams of carbohydrate is a teaspoon of blood sugar to your body, right? And that's going to trigger insulin. And insulin is our friend first, but then it becomes a part of the metabolic mayhem, meaning the creation of fat, the lockdown of fat, the creation of AGEs, water retention, right? So we want to avoid that because that's 7 teaspoons of glucose to our bloodstream, that one banana. Well, where else can I maybe get some potassium from? The raisins are another thing I would have grabbed a handful of in my past. But a half cup of raisins are 56 grams of carbohydrate. That's a lot of carbohydrate for one half cup of something, isn't it? 14 teaspoons. So we can understand now why reaching for these kinds of foods in the quest of nutritional arsenal works against us rather than for us, okay? But we can look at some other choices. Some high potassium foods are winners like your Brussels sprouts, your avocado, and your broccoli, and your almonds. These 4 are foods we reach for on a daily basis when we shift, right? That avocado is that great healthy fat with minimal carbohydrate load. Brussels sprouts are virtually, I can't say carb free, but they're virtually carbohydrate free. Your cruciferous, right? And then almonds, we rely on those all the time to add extra fat. Again, these have little carbohydrate, this has little carbohydrate. However, their fat far outweighs it, and they also have a nice dose of protein as well. So I want you to give some thought over the next 24 hours until you do the next video on how you can increase your potassium and reaching for these greens. In day 6, we're going to touch a little deeper on some more of these foods that you can add into your diet, okay? When I say diet, your everyday feeding. And make sure you tip the odds in your favor even further by guaranteeing that you have some greens with every one of your meals. And remember, try to get that potassium to match how much carbohydrate you're eating. And that's why salads are always a thumbs up. Okay, that's it for today's video. And as always, to your shift.